Good evening, everyone. We are meeting here again with the representatives of all the Brotherhoods of Light, so that what is sent as a message to you is in common agreement between all the Brotherhoods. Again, I would like to register that it is a totally different way from what is done in the world of the incarnated. The voice that echoes through channel is the result of the joint thought of all the spirits of light and all the brotherhoods that are represented here today in this session. We communicate through thoughts, and all thoughts are grouped into one word, and then it is channeled by channel. Thus, the voice that comes out from channel represents the thoughts of all the beings of light present here in this session. And we are sure that these messages will echo in the minds of selected humans as focal points of our messages. We are following the movement of channel, and we have captured that he studied about the avatars of the New Age. It is a very interesting subject that we can address here in this session. The question that remains is, in this New Age, or in all other eras after the coming of Jesus Christ, could it be that there were no other representatives of the beings of light who inhabited or had passage on the planet Earth in order to transmit the messages from us, beings of light? It is a very interesting question that concerns the action of the beings of light. In 2019 years, or a little less, weren't there any other enlightened human beings representing us, beings of light? How did human beings accept this reality, this fact? I tell you that yes, there were several other representatives, several other special beings who inhabited planet Earth on several different occasions after the coming of our dear Jesus Christ. This is known to you, human beings. Several people, mainly in the scientific and academic environment, have had the passage on Earth in order to try to evolve the human being, bring evolution to the human being. In fact, we have several thinkers who have come with the very well-defined goal of transmitting to other human beings wise words that would bring about a change in human thinking. We had Socrates, Pythagoras, Ptolemy, and advancing in terrestrial time, we can mention extraordinary people like Galileo Galilei, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein. In addition, we can mention people in the medical universe, such as Albert Sabin and so many other scientists of the modern world. All of them were beings of light with a greatly developed knowledge through many, many incarnations. Knowledge developed in the upper layers of the spiritual plane, where it is known that there is a vast knowledge acquired from the whole universe. This knowledge comes not only from the knowledge acquired on Earth, but also from the knowledge that has been transmitted by the beings of light from other worlds, with other life cycles, on other phases within the life cycle. Through the exchange of ideas within the spiritual plane, knowledge is acquired, adapting the experiences of other beings of light, imagining how a certain technology could be transferred here to Earth, how it would be possible to transmit or implement it on planet Earth. And obviously, after much planning, these beings reincarnate on planet Earth with the specific goal of working on the development of a certain discipline on the scientific field. So, from time to time, beings of light with knowledge acquired in the spiritual plane incarnate with a certain mission. Clearly, as on Earth there is the rule of free will, this rule that makes the planet Earth such a different planet from the others, so challenging. The rule of free will is not always helpful in the coming of these beings of light. Just like with any human being, earthly life does not always manage to make the incarnate human being accomplish all that has been defined in his reincarnation plan. Several factors interfere or may interfere with the life of a human being, some positively and some negatively. Therefore, what we can say about this subject is that yes, several human beings are prepared from time to time to have a new experience on planet Earth and help in its evolution. But unfortunately, not everyone succeeds. Unfortunately, we have had catastrophic experiences, really negative experiences with beings of light who, fully empowered for the evolution of human beings, ended up distorting themselves, deviating from the path of goodness, giving into certain actions, listening to certain beings, giving in to certain temptations in the earthly world, which made them drift away from the path of good. Just to name a few examples, we can mention Napoleon Bonaparte, Hitler, Nero, Alexander the Great, people with an extraordinary degree of evolution, but who unfortunately, by various factors that perhaps it is not the case to mention now, have deviated from the path of good. They did have many powers, but they ended up using all these powers in a mistaken way, in a negative way, in a way that harmed thousands and thousands of human beings. We also have several examples of good people who have brought a lot of evolution in the scientific world, in the world of medicine, as well as more secluded examples in isolated places, in very restricted regions. Some have gone through the material plane, have done good for many people, and by free will did not disclosure their work or expand their work to a wider range of human beings. They limited themselves, doing their kindness to a restricted group of human beings, We have many, many examples such as this. It is important to say that the planet Earth, for the vast majority of its inhabitants, is indeed a planet of trials. It is rather a planet of great challenges. Therefore, several souls, several beings who have already reached a certain degree on the spiritual plane find themselves attracted to have an experience on this earth, which is so different from the rest of the planets in the universe. We can say that several beings of light spontaneously come to Earth without having acquired pending issues or karmas. They are very special beings concerned with the evolution of species as a whole, with the evolution of the universe as a whole. And they want to pass their experiences out of pure compassion. These are beings of light that inhabit the planet Earth. These are the exceptions to most human beings who are on Earth because of atonement, because of karma acquired in the course of their lives. The Earth is an interesting place, a place where the coexistence between several people from different backgrounds, from the most different previous experiences, would meet. However, in the course of its cycle, it occurred that several spirits were distorting themselves and began to acquire increasingly negative energies, increasingly dense energies, which dominated the human species, let's say, contaminating most beings with the purpose of acquiring power at any cost, at any price. And they used that power to have more and more followers by their side, no longer caring for the greater goal, which was the evolution of the spirit, spiritual evolution. We can say that today, this range of spirits has significant power in our world, on planet Earth. And because of that, a lot of bad things have been happening, and it's been happening more and more. This is where the purpose of our work comes in, which is to use the energy of these few human beings who have the Christ consciousness, who have a differentiated energy, who understand the purpose of spiritual evolution, and in this way they can help us change the course of things on the planet, so as not to let the free will contaminate it with negative energies. On the contrary, try to fight this difficult battle with these twisted spirits, spirits that have been acquiring power and energy from the most unsuspicious human beings, and who makes us see that the goal of life revolves around the acquisition of goods, revolves around possessions, power, greed. This is why we are all here today, bringing messages to those who have the Christ consciousness in them and who have managed to get rid of the bonds of these beings, those who were able to break free and to see the true purpose of the human being on earth, those who were able to see that the evolution of the human being the spiritual evolution, is beyond any feeling of power, any feeling of possession of the riches of the material world. I tell you that the percentage of these human beings is very low. But yes, we have to think positively and make each one of them be reached in order to be increasingly aware of these goals of spiritual evolution. And yes, that they are multipliers of these messages that we are calling the good news of Jesus Christ, but are in fact the return to the correct path, the return to the origins, the return to the real goal of our presence in the earthly world. As we have said several times, this is a difficult task because, as we see, power and greed are capable, very capable, of distorting human beings from their ways. As it was studied by Channel, and for everyone to be aware of it, of course, all of us beings of light are already aware, but perhaps Master Tanaka is not aware. Channel became aware of one of the great avatars of the current world, Satya Sai Baba. He came with a very beautiful mission, a mission to bring once again or reinforce the message of Jesus Christ about love, about the importance of love among human beings. I would say that he has partly achieved his goals during his extensive life on planet Earth. He achieved several positive actions, bringing well-being, healing, and putting several people back to the path of righteousness. However, free will in certain perspectives ended up betraying him. It turned out that this avatar, who yes, had a reincarnation plan in which supernatural powers, or above the normal powers, were given in order to draw people's attention to this message of love, to this message of the need to love each other unconditionally. But, just like several other men, he had a dark side in his private life. The fact is that the greater the power of the human being, the greater the temptations, the greater the astral beings who try to deceive him, and the greater the tools that these beings of the astral world use to mislead these human beings. There must be a lot of perseverance. There must be great concentration on your life goals so that these beings of the astral world do not distort you. There is a tremendous war between the beings of light and the beings of the astral world. A war in search of the actions of this human being, the influences of this human being. Of course, neither side can directly interfere in the life of any person, but intuitions are very clear ways of trying to direct the human being. And obviously, the human being, with free will, may or may not give in to temptations, give in to the obstacles placed in his or her life, to the situations that are created in his or her life. And that, as we said earlier, is the big problem we are having, especially among religious leaders. I can quote that one of the great temptations is sex itself, which often manages to distort human beings from their way of righteousness. Perhaps even more so than money, sex, or the pursuit for sexual pleasure, is the temptation that most distorts people. It is ironic that libido, or the pursuit of sexual pleasure, was a form found and implemented thousands of years ago in the terrestrial world to simply encourage human beings to reproduce. In its essence, libido, or sexual pleasure, was created so that human beings would procreate and in this way populate the earthly world. But, as you say, it backfired. In other words, all the pleasures that sex brings, which was created as an incentive for human reproduction, today is the biggest problem. More and more beings in the astral world end up distorting human beings, using sex as a weapon. It is one of the easiest ways to change the energy of the human being, to transmute the energy of the human being to a lower frequency. And in this way, with lower frequencies, beings in the astral world can more easily influence human beings. In contrast, we beings of light have a greater difficulty in communicating with these human beings. I hope this issue has become clear. Sex, when practiced in the right way, with love between two people, is an act that brings an impressive energetic enhancement. The energy released during the sexual act is actually, in terms of quantity, the greatest act of all earthly actions. Or one of the biggest acts, let's put it this way. However, when it is done in a frivolous way, it also manages to achieve an exceptionally negative energy. Therefore, it is good to say that sexual act must be carried out with a lot of love, with great tenderness, with great affection, in order to raise the energies. Because if sex is done in an erroneous way, it attracts many negative energies, because the beings of the astral world are always in search of energies, and they find it in this act an abundant source of energies. The person who drinks emanates energy of a certain frequency. The person who consumes drugs emanates energy of another frequency. Obviously, both are quite low energies. The same thing happens in the sexual act. When the energy of the sexual act is focused on erroneous feelings, such as personal pleasure, dominance over another being, they reach a frequency where beings of the astral world begin to obsess, creating domain over that person. For this reason, it is so difficult to give up addictions once it reaches a certain vibratory frequency that attracts these spirits from the astral world. Of course, the intention of beings in the astral world is to make these human beings remain at this energetic level, to remain at this frequency, so they can enjoy the energy of the human being. Evidently, if this human being rises, elevates its frequency, these beings of the astral world can no longer feed on its energy. It's the law of attraction. The same is the case for people who use sex in an erroneous way. If human beings could visualize the beings of the astral world that are attracted during the sexual act from the erroneous sexual act, if human beings could see what happens when these energies are reached, I am absolutely sure that human beings would think over and over again before practicing it. So those who want to, who really desire their spiritual evolution, our suggestion is that they stay not only away from these addictive things, not only stay physically distant, but also mentally distant, okay? Just like they manage to lower the frequency of a human being during an act of drinking, of drug consumption, or an illicit sexual act, thinking about these things also contributes to the change of energy. Of course, in a smaller dimension than the physical act, but still, its vibratory frequency decreases. And often, this low frequency through thought is enough to attract beings from the astral world. It is enough to hinder communication with us, beings of light. I believe that this is the great message transmitted in this session. I thank you again for your presence. I thank each of you, beings of light, from the several brotherhoods that are here. I am grateful for the energy emanating, the energy of protection, the radiant energy that is formed so that we, beings of light, have the conditions to establish this current, this communication with our friend channel and also with our master Tanaka. I am sure we will be strengthening this current more and more. We will be increasingly transmitting information that will bring spiritual evolution to human beings. Thank you all so much. Oh, thank God.